All right.
How's this look? Is this all right?
You
It's
look,
good.
you look great.
Okay. I wish there was sumo stuff, but there isn't. So I got my sumo.
I mean, I can see Japan.
Yeah. There you
that
go.
count?
There you go. Right. No, there. Wait. There.
Yeah.
There we go. Hey, it's back.
That is the hardest
Okay.
part. Hurdles.
Yeah. As a teacher, when you're working on an overhead projector, things go backwards on the screen, huh? So you're always trying to go to the wrong side. So I got it.
All right. So I guess we should start.
No,
this.
just let's explain what we're gonna do to John.
Yeah,
yeah,
give
go
me
for
a heads up.
So basically, you want to do it kind of like an interview, I guess. Like instead of doing like why sumo videos that JJ likes, we're gonna toss you on our minimum effort podcast, which is usually minimal effort. We don't put any effort into any of it.
Cool.
But today we're going to put a little bit of effort because JJ is traumatized by our first ever episode of minimum effort, where it was just me and Christina just blabbering on and having completely like nonsensical conversations. So JJ is a little.
We've done about 50 episodes since then.
Okay, cool.
And you are technically the first guest on Minimum Effort.
Well, very cool. Okay. I'm honored, guys.
We're honored. We're honored to have you.
Yeah.
All right, Mencken, go ahead.
This is the Minimum Effort Podcast, Moderate Effort Edition. Today we have our usual hosts, me, myself, and I, and we have our special guest, Jacques.
Okay.
Welcome.
Yeah.
John, it's an honor to have you on here. I met you in Vegas. That was the first time was in Vegas. And I was in a weird mental space of just trying to compete. And I didn't have the time to like slow down and like chat with you. I feel like we made it up on the 2020 US Open, where we're all kind of hanging out. No, the 2022. I think it was 23.
2022. 23.
23?
Yeah, 23.
The last one, yeah, the 23, where we're all kind of hanging out, having fun. And, I decided to move up to a different weight division, and it was still trying to figure some stuff out. And you really helped like secure that my sumo was moving in the right direction. That meant a lot to me.
So it was a pleasure meeting you and your lovely wife. Yeah, Christina. It was really fun. Yeah. And that first time we met, you were in a bit of confusion, maybe you said, but I had been away from sumo for 20 years, and it was my first step back into getting involved with sumo again. Way back in 2001, I had a pretty nasty auto accident, put me in the hospital for quite a few months, and a lot of surgeries and repeat surgeries, and I just realized that Japan had just barred foreign wrestlers from coming to Japan for a year or two, and I had two guys with their suitcases back with contracts ready to fly, and they got canceled literally like a week before they were going to fly out. So it was just like crushing dog. And I said, you know what? I'm done with sumo. And I have a family to take care of. I have a job to try and get back to retire in a year or two. And I mean, I was really messed up. I haven't played tennis, golf, sumo, surfing, anything since then. I can't barely do stairs anymore, so it was a pretty nasty accident. And I'm okay, life goes on. But I was just getting back into it. One of the organizers, I guess somebody fell out that was going to run that event, and somebody contacted and said, "Can you come up and help last minute?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." So got to do it.
Wow.
I met folks like you and just watch what was going on. Just said, "Oh man, I got to get back into here." So I'm back in kind of whole hog till I'm not.
It's great to have you back. Yeah.
Well, it's
I
great to be
think a
back.
lot of us newer folks didn't know who you were, right? Because you had been gone for 20 years. That's basically like a lot of the young people would have been like 10 years old, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're not born yet. Yeah.
That part, yeah.
We're not born yet.
Yeah, Ed, who got third place at that tournament, wasn't born because he was 19 when he got third.
Oh yeah, dang, 19.
19.
Crazy. Huh?
Showed out of
Oh
nowhere.
no, he got
second.
He got second.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry, Ed. Sorry.
Yeah.
I beat him. I'm just playing around. I beat the young
JJ, you
buck.
still beat him, so
You kind of say that about a lot of people. I know that, JJ.
JJ beats everybody. He's just too humble to admit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not going to let him pull that. We're gonna
That's what I keep saying every time I come back to San Diego, and I'm like, I'm not going to let you win, JJ. I just get absolutely obliterated. I'm like, I thought I've improved, but I guess not enough.
Well, I came in with a lot of judo experience, right? But then I really dived into the sumo, right? And now I've kind of been trying to Sapari a little bit more. I've really been digging it. I've been digging it. I'm trying to channel my inner Eric and show my style.
Yeah.
The only difference between you and Eric is you don't have a tachi eye.
It's getting better.
That's what he's working on, right? There you go.
Non-stop.
But
Every time we work tachi eye, every class, and we're doing back to back.
Eric was one of the few guys in America that really kind of had a tachi eye, and that's one of the things when I told people when I got back in, I said, I have two goals. One of them is to get more youth involved in sumo, because I didn't see any kids around when I got back in that first year and a half. I didn't see one kid doing sumo. And Jake Book got about 20 little guys. He and I talked quite a bit. He got about 20 little guys going, and I said, all right, my goal is to restart the youth sumo. And man, now it's just blossoming. And it wasn't me necessarily, but it just makes me happy to see that everybody's getting their kids involved nowadays. And it's just wonderful stuff. And the other goal was to get a tachi eye for America. I brought the next year we brought a sumo team up from Hawaii. We just had four guys that were training the Haliofu, three brothers, and Simeon Vieira. And I think people were like kind of stunned by their tachi eye. Took out Jose and took out a whole bunch of people, because tachi eye is 80% of the ball game if you really do it right. And nowadays there's a lot of discussion in American sumo about, well, some people don't want to get their head banged, we're worried about brain injuries and so forth and so on. Yeah, okay, I understand, but then you just know that your sumo is not going to be quite as good as it could have been if you don't.
Exactly.
And I get it. I understand it. I mean, broken noses, and this nose doesn't go crooked because I was sucking lollipops. But it is what it is, And so I'm just excited to see everybody up in it. I think Gagamaro coming, and then the national team. You guys got to train in Japan, JJ. And I think that made a big difference. Working with Konishiki and just some of the some of the collegians and stuff. I mean, it just. That's the only reason I learned sumo was I had those opportunities to train with those guys for months and months and months, and so just getting a day or two or four over there in Japan or with the source of sumo makes a huge difference. So again, the Roller Town's bringing back Gagamaro again this year, so that's going to be cool. And sadly, they were hoping to bring some more people from Japan, but there's been a rather nasty thing going on there, so I think that's probably not going to happen. I can't imagine that would happen. But the future is still going to be wide open, so it's exciting. Cool.
Yes, it is. It really, really is. I remember when I haven't done a wise sumo for myself yet. I still am trying to figure that out, but I've always been around sumo, right? So when I was younger, I was watching Konishiki and I on ESPN. I was like, oh man, this is cool. And then in 2007, I found a flyer for the US Sumo Open. And I was like, oh. And then I was trying to figure out, like, I emailed Andrew and I was like, hey, So how do I do this? Blah blah blah. And I got ghosted. And then at one point I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna have to have a blow up suit or something like that. I was like, I want to do real. I want to do the real thing. And then, like another 10 years from there, I actually get to start doing it. And I've never stopped since I started doing sumo, and I love it. I truly do.
Well, watching you fight, I guess a lot of your judo training certainly helps, and other martial art training certainly helps. But they're natural, especially now with weight classes. It just makes a huge difference. Guys that might have really struggled going against 300 or 400 pounders can go against people more their size, and open weight still a hell of a lot of fun. But it just kind of evens the board a little bit, and although Ozumo will never do that, certainly top amateur sumo in Japan, high school and college, will never go to weight classes. But international sumo, when people don't get to train 6 days a week, and with the best coaches in the world, it's a lovely adjustment, and it was done hopefully to get us into the Olympic Games. Way back when the IFS was being formed, I was part of that inaugural group that helped put it together. And Mr. Samaraz from the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, the IFS had sent them requests saying we would like to be considered as an Olympic sport. So he said, I'm going to fly into Tokyo and watch the first World Tournament, and I'll give you feedback. So he watched it and he said, oh, it's lovely. And I said, I'll go home and send some letters back. So we all waved goodbye and he left. And then the letters came and they called us back to Japan to go over it. I said, I really like everything that's going on here. He said, but some countries don't allow buttocks and so forth to be shown. So he said, that could be an Olympic sport. Japan went, okay, we're going to allow that. So, they came up with that rule. So he came the next year and he said, oh, yeah, this looks good. Everybody looks good and people can or cannot as they so choose. And he said, and he wrote a letter when he got back home again. He said, I really like that. He said, but not every country has 300, 400 pounders because it was only open weight in the beginning. He said, classes. He said, just like boxing or wrestling or other sports, make it fair competition, not just how's Vietnam and the Philippines and a lot of those countries going to really compete when they might have 5 guys like that in their whole country, in America or some of the other countries, Russia, Japan, the Iron Curtain, we've got thousands of people that are that big and tough.
Right.
So, all right, so they made Japan, all right, we'll make weight classes. The third year was the kicker, and when he came back with that year, he said, this is lovely. He said, we're really excited about bringing sumo into the Olympic family. He said, but every sport we bring in has to have a male and a female. And Japan said, no, they just didn't want to do that. But because they so wanted to get their sport into the Olympics, they agreed to add a women's division. And look at now, I mean, for America, the women are the only ones that have won a medal in the Olympics in quite a while. Look at and Kellyanne and the whole gang. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Not even just the champions, but just around the country. It's really cool. There's just so many women are in sumo right now. I'm just really jazzed.
They're so good. They're so good.
Oh,
like the Ukraine team. Like that team is so strong. Like they have a good male program, yes, but their female program is solid.
It's on a different level. Yeah.
It's cool.
Like Estonia, Brazil, like all of these countries are really developing. And our club is all about being inclusive to everyone, and and my wife is a champion of that, and I really help support her with that. The only person we don't like is Minkin. Outside of that, we like everything else.
Yeah. It causes a lot of issues. Yeah. John, I have a question. So, were you in Japan and Akita in 2001 for the World Games? I
don't think I was in 2001. No.
Because that's the first time to introduce the World Games, sumo to the World Games, because it was in Akita, Japan.
Yeah, no. I was for the International Federation Sumo Championships, but the World Games is different, right? What you're talking about?
Yeah, different game. It's the World Games is the Olympics little brother. I just wanted to know because I lived in Akita at the time, right? So it was in Akita. It was right in my backyard where they did it.
Okay.
It was a 10-minute walk from where I was living.
I kind of started pulling back from from.
Oh yeah, 2001. You said, yeah.
Well, that was by accident. But I mean, even in the late '90s, I was kind of pulling back a little bit. A lot of us that were trying to organize the federation were not real impressed with some of the leadership and some of the decisions. Like they told America, I was in sumo at that time for about 30 years and kind of dominating, when I was fighting, and then I was out of fighting and just running programs. And I probably, over the 80s and 90s, probably had 500 people come through our program, and sent so many of our kids off to colleges in Japan for scholarship for sumo and into professional sumo, into world championships. We have the only world champion from juniors, Harrington right up, lived 3 houses away from me. So I mean, it was big time heady stuff, and all of a sudden, Japan saying, well, we want Yonezuka, I'm not supposed to say name, we want this other gentleman to be the president. And it turns out because he had been roommates with Tanaka, who was running the International Federation. So Kuntai Mawashi, that was Manny Yarbrough's judo guy that got Manny into sumo. And, Manny, of course, we just grew up really big. He was just awesome in his introduction to sumo. But all of a sudden, it's like, no, and you can't do this. And they said, well, Hawaii's been doing sumo for 110 years. And they started telling me, well, you have to apply to us for permission. Yonezuka and other people that would start to get into American things said, well, you can't help practice anymore, John, unless you turn in all your forms. I go, no, we're just doing what we're doing. I said, this is not about you guys. This is about Hawaii, and we're not going to care about you guys that much. We'll do what we got to do. They said, no, you can't do that. You can't do any sumo. I don't know. So I just said, I started just backing. I said, I'm out of here. I don't want to be a trustee anymore in the federation. It just was kind of crazy. And I told Japan, the guy that's in jail now, or actually he passed away, but he was just making these ridiculous demands on everybody, and everybody was bowing. I just said, no, this is bullshit. We're not doing that anymore. So
is that part of the reason why Hawaiian sumo is almost like it's like the Hawaiian sumo is definitely on a higher prestige than America, but it's almost like we don't know about each other.
Yeah, well, when I got in, I was kind of pulling away from the international, and Hawaii guys were kind of pulling away a little bit from international, and then I got really, severely damaged, and I just said I have to just step away from sumo completely, and I asked all the guys that had been in the club for decades to kind of take over the running and stuff. But I mean, I was doing it like a job. I was a vice principal in high school and running a program with probably 60 or 70 wrestlers, and just major, big time. So between my family and my job at sumo, I had no moments left in the rest of the day. And I mean, I would call every guy the night before practice, the night before tournament, are you coming? You be there. You get your butt here. And we had all kinds of donations and awards. It was a really big, complex program. And these guys wanted to put in like 2 or 3 hours a week and go to practice. They didn't want to be all the organizing behind and calling the meetings, and kind of what you're going through now, JJ, with your Southern Cal tournament and now, the upcoming nationals. I was doing that like every week. That's what I was kind of running. So they just didn't have that time commitment or that desire to organize like I did. So I think it's kind of dwindled. And one of our stronger wrestlers was Kenna Heffernan. Kenna started doing sumo with me when he was in 4th grade, 5th grade. His dad was my high school state wrestling champion, Roger Heffernan. And Roger started doing sumo, and Kenna and his brother Jake came to every practice with Dad, because Dad wanted them to get tough too. So by the time he was in sophomore or junior in high school, Kenna Heffernan could already beat most of the men on our team, even the big guys, and he wasn't that big, but just a tough guy. With all-state wrestler, all-state pole vaulter, all-state sprinter, all-state running back, fullback.
Basically a freak of all freaks, right?
What to yell. So just, major skills. But it was just dwindling, and he didn't have time. He was just getting married and making his own babies and trying to get started in his job. So, he put in time, and he's the only guy right now that's really taking kids like the Hako Cup, and they train once a month. Okay.
The Aloha Sumo, Aloha State Sumo.
Yeah, Aloha State Sumo. So, but he's a direct, he's like the last of the byproduct of what we did. But we have like Henry Faliofa. Paya, the guy that won the heavyweight championship that year in Salt Lake City, I think it was. Was it Salt Lake or Vegas? I forget.
North American, no? I think it was in North American in Vegas.
He did sumo in my backyard when he was 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old. Him and his two brothers came to my backyard every Saturday. And then when I stopped, they stopped, and it was too bad. They were just like in sophomores and juniors in high school. But when I just pulled the plug, so it is what it is. So I keep hoping that we'll get it rolling again. So since I got back into it, we are practicing again, and we brought those guys up. Wayne VR is right. The sumo dohyo in Hawaii right now is a dirt ring outside in the back of the church that Wayne VR is the minister at. So, it's all homegrown, and that is like 9 houses away from my house. I mean,
it's still like a small community, right?
One of Oahu that has about 4,000 people. At one time had 100 sumo wrestlers.
Wow.
2% of the population were doing sumo.
Dang.
So
that's what we want out in San Diego.
Yes.
Like the old saying goes, build it and they will come. If you build it, they will come.
This is true. But first we got to get that mortgage money in California, and that's hard.
Yeah. Well, it's just as hard in Hawaii, trust me. Hawaii is a crazy ass place to live, but it's also the most wonderful place for me. I met my wife 55 years ago here, and this has been home ever since. Just like there's no place better to live because everybody's equal. There's no green, black, white, brown, tan, pink, blue. Just everybody just kind of we're just all together. It's just like one. It's kind of like the sumo family. I don't know. JJ, you can say this, but in our American sumo family, I don't see any kind of bullshit going on. Maybe there is, and I'm unaware of it. But
if there's any, it's super small, and it's the vast minority, right? Mm-hmm. Like I have never been. I'm in many communities, but the sumo community is by far one of my favorite. Like per capita, everyone is just their heart is on their sleeve. They are just the best of best people. It's like we're distilled down to like 100 proof alcohol. You know what I mean?
Even me, JJ. Even me.
I don't like you,
me. Yes.
You guys have an amazing relationship. Very good.
This is just what we do. This is usually what our entire show is about. Just talking crap about each other. Yeah.
Yeah. For the most part. So when we did the first SoCal Open, I had no idea about the history of sumo in California. It was just one of those things that I didn't know anything about. And then as I was starting to do my rounds with the newspaper articles and all of that, I found a connection to the Japanese Historical Society. And they started shining some light about, them having sumo tournaments in San Diego, in the internment camps, dirt, like all of that. And I'm just like, why isn't this taught? Why isn't this put out there? Like there's not even college courses where they talk about anything along those lines. But due to me like throwing a sumo tournament with basically putting my foot promptly into my mouth, I've built like really good relationships with the Japanese community in San Diego, and they've really shined some light on that. Do you have any I know you've talked about California Yokozunas before or something along those lines where there was like a rotating sumo tournament?
Well, what I know is in the late 1800s, Hawaii needed workers, agricultural workers big time. They needed them. And Japan had millions of people. And Japan is a pretty tough society. If you're born into the lower ranks, it's almost impossible to rise up. Now, today with IT and other things, it's way different. But back in the late 1800s and stuff, if you were born into a samurai tradition family, even if it was 8 generations out, you were somebody. And if you weren't, if you were born into an Ainu kind of family or whatever, you were like, you were never going to rise up. You were just, kind of like a lot of our non-traditional whites in America. If you weren't of a certain whatever, you just, the road ahead was so much harder. So they would jump on ships freely just to be able to go to America. So they were promised they would have food, they would have work every day, they would have a house to live in, or some kind of shelter. And they were told, like, in 5 years, if you work hard and stuff, you pay back your shipping fee and get over here and so forth, you can go back home with probably a lot of money. Almost none of them ever got back home again that way. The next 2 or 3 generations down the line, they're going back as mayors and governors, and teachers and nurses and doctors, but that first couple of generations don't. California had the exact same thing going on. Hawaii needed it for pineapple and sugarcane, and California needed it for all the crops. And so many immigrant Japanese came to work the fields, and really low, hard, 12-hour days for 3 cents a day. I mean, just hard, terrible conditions and shit. But they did it. And all these guys, mostly at the beginning, it was men that came. They didn't bring women in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So the guys would have one day off, Sunday usually, and they'd just sit around. Sunday was not their church day or whatever, so they just sat around and they maybe chip in and buy a little bottle of sake just to share and talk about home, talk about Osaka or Tokyo or wherever, and talk about the sumo guys and talk about that. And I'm sure, I don't know this as a fact, but I'm sure a few guys were just sitting at one of the plantations, whether it was California or Hawaii, just said, let's just draw a circle in the dirt just for fun this afternoon. I bet I could be doing some. Oh, you can't beat me. I bet I could. So they just started scrambling around. And then the next week they said that was really fun. So they bring 3 more buddies. Hey, we had fun last week. So all of a sudden there's 8 of them doing it. And they start training. Then they go to the store. Once a month they get to go to the bigger town to the store. And they meet other guys. They tell the other guys from the other plantations, the other farms, hey, if we're doing, oh shit, that's cool. And pretty soon more and more. So they just get together and little informal things. When they'd have their own festivals and stuff, the sumo guys would show up, put on them, and they made mawakis out of rice bags and canvas cloth. It didn't matter, just whatever they could do. And they just started playing the game. And that was a way to be home. Just like American guys are in Afghanistan playing baseball. Throwing the football. It's the same thing. It's just like, it's a little touch of home on a day off. And it just grew and grew. So in Hawaii, in the 1920s and 30s, there were sometimes 100, 200 wrestlers show up to a big tournament, and 10,000 people would drive in their cars or ride their horses, buggies in to watch it. And I got to actually see some of the really old film. One of the bosses, when World War II came, everything Japanese became dangerous. So half of them got shoved off into these concentration camps, whatever you want to call them. I call them concentration camps. They're just terrible, just like America was afraid that they were going to be honoring the emperor, even if they were 3 generations in and playing football and stuff in the high school, whatever. In the army, no, we don't trust you, And you can kind of understand a little bit. I mean, war was crazy. Pearl Harbor got attacked. Like, wow, everyone's like panicked. What are we going to do about this? So they burned their mawashis and they buried all their things from the emperor and from their Hawaii State Championship, their California things. Everything just got dumped into the ground, burned, because if the American soldiers came into your house and they saw on the wall a picture of you doing sumo or a commendation from the emperor, instantly you were handcuffed and you were escorted out, and your wife and kids would follow you a week later, and you moved into one of those detention centers. So it was So everything got lost. But this one guy had about 4 films from like the 30s in these big steel canisters, and he wrapped it in all kinds of things and beeswaxed around and stuff, and he buried them because he had been the president, Mr. Okazaki, and he passed away about 1980 or so. But we got to see, he broke it out one time and said, everybody come over to his house, and he put on this old projector, click, click, click. But we just watched these old, like, Model A's pulling in, and thousands of people, and all the wives of the wrestlers in the Chunkoban room making musubis and rice balls and onigiri to feed the wrestlers and to sell to people to make money for the club. It got so big that all these guys were sugarcane or pineapple, or in California, I don't know, grapes, oranges, whatever they were going, laborers, and a lot of them made enough money from their winnings that they stopped doing agricultural work and they just trained. And they became, they were training 3 or 4 days a week, and If they went to a tournament, they could maybe win $100. Which back in those days was like $1,000 more. Today we're talking
Right.
30s. I mean, $1,000 was buying a house or 2 cars. So it was big time. So they just the ladies made their own kesel mawashis, all handmade out of different things. So they had it like California had it. So they had yokozuna and so forth and so on. But in America, because it wasn't a league and stuff, each year whoever won was called the yokozuna for the year. Right. And then the following year, if you lost, well, then you were the ex-yokozuna, and Charlie's now the yokozuna. So it just just kind of simulating what was going on in Japan. And but after the war, Japanese kids, even in school and stuff, were still kind of, they had a tough life. They were looked down upon by a lot of people until maybe the late 50s, early. I mean, even to this day, I know some people say, "Oh, I don't like the Japanese. I don't like the Asians." Like, really? They're cool. No, I don't like them. Okay, well, that's your call. So the kids did not want to do sumo because then it'd be called Buddha head and katonk and everything. So they no, screw that. So football, basketball, volleyball, and look how good they're doing stuff. But to this day, a lot of the Asian kids don't want to do sumo. The parents and the grandparents would like them to do it now, but they didn't want to do it when they were younger. So it's peer pressure. So it's tough. So that's a little bit. I don't know if that was your question. If I answered it.
Like for sure, that's 100% where, and everything you said kind of echoed what the Japanese Historical Society has told me.
Okay, cool.
Like about like post World War II. Yeah. It was basically the more Japanese you were, the more of a criminal you were.
Exactly.
Right? And it's I would, if I could, turn back time, there's multiple things you would have to change. I get that. But it would have been amazing to see how California, Hawaii, and maybe the rest of the United States would have developed their own like organic sumo, like our version of the JSA or something along those lines.
Yeah. It might have happened, but it didn't. And in California, it kind of faded out more. In Hawaii, with the war, it definitely went away. But Hawaii always had the different islands would have teams. Originally, it was just the different towns had teams. They'd come together. And then they realized they wouldn't have a state tournament. So Hawaii sent a team, and the Big Island sent a team, and Oahu sent a team, Maui sent a team. They all these islands got together for the state championship. So there might be 20 teams on Oahu that were competing to each guy trying to get to be on. It's like us going on to the national team to go to the Worlds or something. But they're on the Hawaii state team. Or the island team to go to the state tournament. So it just kind of grew back up again, and I don't know what happened in California. I know there were quite a few guys, Jim Loair, Harry Goodrow, and a lot of those guys from the 2000s and 1990. But I know it started again after the war. I saw pictures of Trent Szabo and those guys 30 years ago or so that were doing sumo 20 years ago. I don't know exactly. I don't know much about that history. I don't know much about that history, but I know the Hawaii history pretty good.
Lincoln, your next question, my dude.
All right, John. This is a big one, maybe depending on if you consider it big or not. Why did you start sumo?
Okay.
What was a motivating factor, or what did you find that why sumo?
I'll try to do this fast. I had heard about sumo. I had seen some pictures of sumo. I saw a James Bond movie. There was some sumo in the background. I said, "Oh, that's pretty cool sport." I was a wrestler. I was a rugby player. I was a street fighter. I was a bar fighter. I was a bouncer. So all those things just appealed to me. Like, oh shit, yeah, that looks cool. I'd like to go kick ass and go after people. And I didn't know anything about the culture. I didn't know anything about Japan. In my town, there were no Japanese. There were no blacks in my little town on Long Island I grew up in. Everybody was Italian, Jewish, or Catholic. Catholic. But we grew up in kind of a cloistered little community. It was blue collar, but nobody was. We just didn't have any diversity where we grew up. So I didn't have any supposition. I didn't know anything about it. I came to Hawaii, and I saw that Hawaii had sumo, and I read about this guy Takayama. And we were actually born like a week apart or something like that. Jesse and I, when I got to meet him, we found out where our birthdays were. Oh my God, you, yeah. So with the same age, I go, wow. And he's this amazing international hero, and I'm just this walking around trying to teach school. But I had heard about it, and then we started to follow a little bit. There was a lot about Takayama because he was still fighting at that time, and it was just kind of heady stuff for me. And then all of a sudden, I saw in the newspaper one day that they said next month, like in May or something, the professional sumo from Japan is coming to Hawaii for 5 nights of sumo competition. It's called a junyo. And you guys probably are aware of those things now, but that was like, what? They're coming to Hawaii? Oh, cool. It's like saying the Dallas Cowboys is coming to your hometown. I mean, Hawaii's a little tiny place with less than 1 million people. It was back then. And I thought, oh, this is cool. So one of my wrestling coaches and I said, hey, and a little guy, way smaller than you guys. I mean, he was like 5'2" and about 105 pounds or something. But hell of a wrestler, great coach. I said, hey, let's go down and watch these guys. This should be cool. So we got down there, and I'm always a violator of rules and regs. I'm a bad boy. So I said, let's go around the back, because we used to go in for wrestling tournaments, and I knew how to get in the back, because that's where our state wrestling tournament, a lot of our big league matches were held in the Blaisdell Arena. So I think I can get us in free here. I got into concerts, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I call it Jones, and I love to. Sorry, I love to be Jones. So we walked through the back. Nobody stopped. We walked right in. We sat down, and it wasn't a complete sellout. So we found a couple of empty seats. We sat down, and the first thing we see is a bunch of white boys out on the ring. Like 30 years old was Ernie Hunt, and a couple of 20, 18-year-old, and about 2 or 3 like 15-year-old kids, and they're in the ring. I go, this is Japan. And so I said, no, that's the amateurs from Hawaii. Japan guys don't come out. I thought so. So I watched them. Oh, look at these guys. That looks kind of. I said, we could kick their ass. And this little guy said, I can kick their ass. I said, but we just watch them. That's fun. So intermission, they were just there like from 7 to 7:30. The show starts at 7:45 or something. So they just like entertained the crowd coming in, and they got to show off their stuff in front of like 10 or 15,000. By the time the stadium was packed, it was 20,000 in that stadium. So I go out to the beer line for the little intermission, and all of a sudden this guy comes running up and kind of cuts in front of me, about 3 guys in front, and it's Ernie Hunt. The guy, I didn't know who he was then, but it's the guy that was just doing sumo on the dohyo, the amateur guy from as a Navy guy, big pink white belly and whatever, and he has his t-shirt on. So I said, hey, where do you? He goes, yeah. So he get a beer, I get a beer. So he said, well, let me talk to you, because he always was recruiting. He said, you look like you could be a wrestler. I said, well, whatever. He goes, come tomorrow night. He said, I'll teach you how to do sumo. No, I'm good. I said, he goes, come on. He said, come at 5 o'clock. So I went down the next night at 5 o'clock, and I just had my swimsuit on. And he said, strip. I said, no, bullshit, I'm not doing that. No. So we put the belt over my swimsuit, and I just played a little bit. That's pretty cool. And then the next 3 nights, I couldn't even go to the show. I had stuff going on at home. And 2 years later, I thought, all of a sudden I see that, they're coming again. So I went down to the arena in the back door. And there's Ernie Hunt, same thing again. I said, hey, Ernie. He goes, hey, John. He said, where have you been for 2 years? And no. He said, tomorrow, come again. He said, let's train. He said, you can just train with me in the ring. And it's the big formal dohyo with the banners and all this, really almost like the Kobe Geekon when they held it at the Blaisdell. So I went and I trained, and he said, 4 guys had a flat tire, they're not going to make it. He said, I only have myself and 2 kids. He said, you got to come out with us. I said, in front of 10,000 people, you're crazy, dude. He goes, please. Oh, I did it. And that was my introduction. About 3 months later, I get a call from him. And he said, John, we have a sumo team that's going to Japan for 15 days. No, 20 days. We're going for 20 days to Tokyo, to Fujinomiya, and Misawa, and all around the different parts of Japan. And we're going to compete with like 9 different little towns. They're going to put their sumo team out. We're going to fight in 9 different towns, like an international goodwill. He said, everything would be free to you because 2 guys can't make it. They had 20 guys, wrestlers going to go. He said, 2 got hurt. So he said, we're going to have a little thing on Saturday. I said, just come down. If you can beat the other guys there, you get a free trip to Japan for 20 days. Ooh. And I said, I don't know. My girlfriend and I, she was not my wife then, we're living together. And I hung up the phone. She goes, what? I said, well, that's that guy, Ernie Hunt. I told him. He said, I can go to Japan for 20 days for free. He said, but, I don't want to do that. I said, because you got to wear that mawashi. She goes, when you moved in college, you got kicked out of college for moving. So why are you playing sissy now? How could you turn down an opportunity and go, shit, I called him already back. Okay, I'll go. So I went down Saturday, and they had like 2 60-year-old guys and about 12 kids, 15 and younger. And they're going to pick 2 guys to go on their team. And I was just retired from rugby, and I was 32 years old and fit and tough and just scrapper. So I escorted the 80-year-old, the 60-year-old guy out, and lifted a little feet up. I mean, just gentle. I mean, JJ, you would have killed any one of these people. I mean, Megan, you these were not sumo wrestlers at all. These were people that they just called it the last minute. They showed up to try and get a free trip, and I was one of them. So we went to Japan, and we went for 20 days. And after 16 days, my record was like 1 win and 197 losses. Because Japan, and we went against high schools, like the Tokyo All-Star high school team. We went against the collegiate. We went against Meiji Nakano High School. We went against Meiji Daigaku. We went against Nichidai sumo team. We trained at Takasago Bay, and everybody I met just beat the shit out of me. I thought I was a tough guy. These guys were like the baddest guys I've ever met. And I came home, I kept losing because I'm a freestyle wrestler. So I'm really good just scooting on the ground. I used to love to get down low and shoot single legs and head heels, and just always on my knees and scrabbling around, freestyle and collegiate style wrestling. And also every time you do that, you lose it. Sumo. And Japan coaches, you got to go harder. You got to charge faster. So I'm just charging, and they're just playing bullfighter, and they just Henka everybody would just say, "Oh, the white guy, Henka him," because he just been charged like a mad bull. So the last 2 tournaments, I told my buddies, I said, I'm not charging anymore. This is just not working. I said, I'm just going to stand up and I'm just going to wrestle them. They blow me out. I'm not getting any wins. I took seconds. So it was cool because I could do my game, because I was trying to follow what they were telling me to do, but it wasn't working. So we go home, and I think at the end of the thing, I had like 200 losses and maybe 12 wins. And I thought, wow, that was really humbling. I said, this is great. And I love the people in Japan. They were just incredible. And because we were the first American team that had ever gone to Japan to do sumo, we got treated. I mean, we held the American flag, walked down the street of every little town we went to, and big parades, and people on TV. We were on every national television show you can imagine. And I mean, wow. I did sumo like 3 practices, and I was in Japan, so I had no idea what I was doing. Like the greenest of rookies, and they're like, "Would you sign my autograph? Would you autograph?" I said, "Well, sure, I will. I'll play big sound." So at Christmas time, talked me out. I got a phone call from Jesse. He goes, "Jacques," he said, "What are you doing tonight?" "What are you doing tonight?" Wait, Doc. I said, "Why? What's up?" He goes, "We're in Honolulu." He said, "I want you to come down and have dinner with me." I said, "Oh, all right, shoot." He goes, "Yeah, I got some stuff to talk to you about." All right. So I went down, and I walk into the restaurant, and I look at, "Oh," Jesse yells out. So I walk over to the table, and who's sitting at the table? Taka no Hana, Taka Miyama. And Jesse said, "Chiyo Fuji's up in the room." Like, what the fuck? What? I can't say that, can I? Yeah, I'm sorry.
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess
you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have dinner, and then we just said, "Come on up to us." "No, I don't want to bother you. It's good. He goes, "Come up to the room. I got to talk to you." Get up to the room, and the Taka no Hana, the dad was there. The wrestler Taka no Hana, his dad was the Ozeki, and that Taka no Hana became the Yokozuna. But this is a couple of years before he became Yokozuna. He was on his way up, but big time. And I'd actually met him in Hawaii about 3 years earlier. So I met these guys. So we talked. And Jesse put a rope, one of the yukata around me. He said, "This is a gift, and I'm trying to figure out how to do this." And Taka no Hana comes by and goes, "No, you're tying it wrong." So he reties it. And I'm just standing there going, this is like a dream world. This is so cool. It's kind of like you must have felt, JJ, being in Takasago Bay or something. Just trippy stuff. So those guys left. They were going out on the town, and just said, "I need to talk to you after they're gone." He said, they're leaving about 5 minutes after dinner. They went out the door. So Jesse said, "Japan wants to bring you back next summer for 3 months to train in a sumo stable." Miyagi no Beya, the Oyakata, was a former grand champion, and they want to bring you back to train 3 months in Japan. I go, you got the wrong guys. There's guys that were beating me, and he said, it's not that they're not bringing you back because you're a good wrestler. They're not bringing you back. They're bringing you back because you're a wrestling coach, you're a football coach, you're an administrator of a public high school, you have contacts in Hawaii. We understand your rugby career was pretty strong, your wrestling career. He said, I checked up on you. He said, you got to meet what they want. They want Hawaii to start doing better sumo. Because when I learned sumo in Hawaii, that little bit I was doing, everything was done wrong. Shiko was done wrong. Now that I know the sport, but they were doing their best. But it's just like we go to Kansas City or something; they're just doing it slightly wrong. Nobody had really been back to Japan to train and stuff for like 50 years. So sumo it's like the language just got worse and worse. When Hawaiian Japanese talk Japanese to Japan Japanese, the Japan Japanese don't understand what they're saying because they're throwing in Filipino words and Tongan words and Hawaiian words, and they think they're speaking fluent Japanese. But they go, what? Nandeska? What do you say? The same with sumo. They just started throwing in football drills and this drill and that drill. Everyone thought, well, this is going to be better for sumo. Then we don't want to do this. They would do it this way because that's better. Okay. Japan said, we like our relationship with Hawaii, but we want American sumo to grow. So we're going to train you for 3 months. The first month, you'll be treated like a rookie, like a Jonoguchi. The second month, we'll treat you like a Makusta. The third month, we'll treat you like a Sekitori. You ain't going to be any of those things. You're just here. Not only, I'm not like anything official in sumo. I mean, I never joined sumo. You can't do that. I'm too old, whatever, and hopeless. But they just would treat me. So that first month, every morning at 5 o'clock, I got kicked in the ribs. Had to go down, sweep the whole thing, scrub the toilet bowls. About 6 o'clock, we started doing practice, and we practiced. And as soon as the next group showed up, we had to step aside and hand towels and water buckets and just take care. Then we'd go run and set the fudo up, and we'd go wash the rice. We'd go start doing some of the cooking and setting the table for lunch and whatever. So it was just a slave. Literally, it's like a freshman at West Point or the Air Force Academy. You just run your ass off. You're not getting much done but service. Then they made me Makusta. The second month, they said, now congratulations, today you're Makusta. Oh, thanks. My sumo was going downhill, but my personal sumo was going, I was learning more, but I put on weight to go over there. When I started doing sumo, that trip, I was about 240, my first trip to Japan. I bumped up I was about 310 when I went over there. I wanted to be able to be, so I just put on weight. My whole life, I always had to pull weight for wrestling, 191. Rugby coaches say, John, you're 250. If you get down to 220, you'll be a lot faster getting out of the scrum. All right. So always weight diet. Sumo guy said, if you put on 40 pounds, you'd be awesome, dude. So love it. Pass the beer, another bowl of rice. I'll have some more shit. I mean, literally, that's the bad thing about heavyweight sumo is people just let ourselves go crazily in love of our sport. It's just an excuse to be a pig is all it is. So my weight went way down, but I was Makusta, so I didn't have to get up to about 8 o'clock. And I didn't have to do everything. I didn't have to clean the toilet bowls anymore. I still had to do sentaku, clean and sweep a little, like everybody does. Even though Yokozunas basically kind of help out on the stable if they're good guys. And then the third month, they said, okay, now you're like a Sekitori. So I showed up to practice about 9 o'clock. And of course, I had to train with some of them, just got more hammered than ever. But I was the first one into the fudo. After the Oyakata, I was the first one into the fudo. I was the first one to sit down after the Oyakata and eat. Wow. I got the choice pieces of meat. The first month, when I reached in the bowl, I saw all this meat coming cooking. Reached the bowl, man, there's some leftover onions and cabbage, and there's no meat, there's no chicken. It's gone, dude, because all the big guys, the higher rank guys. So that's what makes young guys in sumo just fight like crazy because they want to get out of that lower rank as fast as they can. So it's miserable. It's just horrible. It's like being on a whaling ship or something like that. It's just nasty life. And as they rise up, and then after lunch, I'd lay down and one of the kids would come and turn the fan on, aim it at me, and you need another pillow. Just a bit up and roll my futon out. I'm a Sekitori now, right? And the boss didn't let me. He would take me out. Some of the guys in the sumo stable would take me out, but he wouldn't let me go out with the sponsors the first 2 months. He said, no, you take that. The third month, he said, okay, you can go. and they would take you out. I mean, take you to like the finest sushi restaurants. I'm sure, and this is like in the 70s. I'm guessing meals were $500 a person. I mean, it's just crazy. Like there'd be 6 diners in the entire restaurant, and there's the Yokozuna and me and his wife, and then another businessman out in the corner with a group of 2 or 3. And that was it. And there's like 12 people waiting on us. Like, it was just incredible stuff. And then every time I'd get out of the car, when they'd bring me back to the stable, they'd shake my hand, and they'd always have a couple of $100 in like a little donation to thank you for coming out. And they would show me off. They thought, you know, they were having a great time. Oh, we got this guy and the blonde hair, blue eyes. All their little fancy bars. Oh, so that's not that stuff. Wow. And I had to wear yukata. I had to wear the slippers. I didn't have I had a crew cut, and I had to shave off all my facial hairs and stuff. But it was just kind of a crazy life. And so I came home at the end of that. And the whole reason they were doing this was strictly to teach me about what is the world of sumo like. So I could come back and tell the story around America as best I could. And I could train the Hawaii guys as best I could and try and grow sumo in the different states. And I tried, man. I went up to the mainland 50 times trying to get things going. I'd be there for 2 weeks. We'd get a club going. We'd get 6 guys, 8, 10 guys, Newport, Rhode Island, and Oakland, and just everywhere, Denver. And I'd be gone back in Hawaii about 2 weeks. I'd call and say, how's it going? They go, well, the first practice after you left, there were 8 guys. Then there were 4 guys. Now it's just me showed up today. Oh, okay. It's you know, nobody knows what to teach them, so it just falls apart. Yeah. So that's why.
And a lot of times people start off for that charming personality, right? And then after that person's gone, it's not as interesting. So sometimes I run into that too, because I want to keep my club going even when I'm at like the Consulate's Cup or something along those lines. And if people know I'm not there, the attendance will drop. And I've worked around that. But if I'm gone for multiple weeks, like when we're in Japan, the first week we had students. The second week there was 2 students, and then the third week there was no one.
Yeah. It's like a substitute teacher. You know, when you know there's a sub, I mean, I would cut class when I was in high school. Sub, cool.
Depends on what movie was playing.
That's right. Well,
I remember back
in school in the 50s and early 60s, the movies were just the most boring crap. Got to see like Hollywood movies. I don't know. It's like, how does this America grows new jars? How do we make jars? You know, like what?
Oh no.
Just like the latest, had nothing to do with the subject you're taking. Just the teacher would run down the library, grab something, and just throw it to the sub. Or whatever. So yeah, it's hard to keep. And when I stepped out of sumo around 2001 with that accident, I just said, I'm really done. It kind of dropped a little bit because I was just willing to put in all these crazy hours to keep it fun for everybody and to get everybody involved. And right. I kind of blame myself that I probably should have done more delegating and more. I tried training people. I mean, we had weekly meetings, and I would bring them in my car. I'd buy them dinner on the way down, buy them snacks on the way back home, just to get them to come and participate. But it just kind of fell off a little bit. So it is what it is. But what's happening now in America is just booming. But it's also pulling in a slightly different kind of participant. The kids we got were just hard-ass, tough, willing to bleed and die, Samoan, Tongan, Hawaiian, Fijian, Caucasian, whatever. And the people we met in Japan, the guys that go into sumo, they're there because they're on a mission. They want to attack. They want to be. They're not saying, "Oh, I don't want to mess my nose up." You know, I got to work tomorrow. I got a job. You know? They're like, "Bring it, baby, bring it." And you know, broken nose, those teeth, missing teeth, color years. I mean, It is what it is. So it's a slightly different thing, and I'm kind of an old school boy because I'm an old boy. So I like to push more the traditional aspects of sumo, all the way from the mentality and the purpose of sumo and the reasoning behind it, and then just the physicality of it. But that doesn't go over well with everybody. And I think in today's world, sumo can be for everybody, but we're running a danger. I think if you went to the Ukraine sumo, you know, we talk about the Ukraine girls and stuff. If you actually spent a month training with those guys, you'd probably find they're not like catering to every guy that just wants to get him a washi, and then guys were in sumo for like 3 days. They already have like 1,000 more videos of them doing sumo than I ever had in 50 years. I mean, we just didn't do filming back then. Nobody had cell phones and stuff. And if you took pictures and you got them back there like this, your body was like that tiny, that far away. Oh shit! I thought it'd be that. So it's different times, different places. But if we really want to get us back on international podiums, you got to be a badass to be on an international podium. You know, you can go to the World Championships representing any country or whatever, and you know you don't have to be tough. But if you want to get on the podium, you got to be tough. You know, this is a World Championship. You know, world. You know, there's a billion people. There's millions of people. You're going to be like the number 1, 2, or 3 person in the whole world at your weight, at your sport, dude. If you're not putting in serious battling, then I don't see how any American could be competitive at one practice a week, one practice a month. I mean, it's cool. You know, you're doing it, but and you can win your club championship and you can win your local tournaments and stuff. You're going to have you're going to be hard pressed. When you watch the guys who win nationals, most of them are putting in quite a bit of effort. You know, they're not the skaters, but they're going. But maybe in each club you got 2 or 3 of those guys. So this is the question I hear from a lot of the more serious athletes around America. Like, well, John, you know, I really want to go hard, but if I go hard, like I just heard everybody in my club, they won't come back again. So I can't go hard. And I get that. So I think what I tell them is find at least one more guy that can go hard with. And then you just tell people, like, the first time of practice, I'm gonna be working with you to coach and train and teach you. And when I say my time is on, when I tell you I'm going full on, if you don't want to get banged, don't step in the dohyo. Because if you step in the dohyo, you tell me I'm ready. I'll take on whatever you want to deal. Because that's the only way I can get better. The only way I can be able to go to the national championships and beat the other guy from 4 states away is if I'm kicking ass, because he's kicking ass. He's got 4 guys he's training with. So I've got to up my game a whole lot. And whether it's the girls or the guys or the youth, I mean, it just so.
I can't speak for other states, but I do know for the clubs that are active in California that we kind of like we have like everybody has a couple tough people, right? And then we're just now starting actual joint training. But we've been doing is just like we're like roaming, we're gonna go hang out with this one, and then when we get there, like Joe would drive down to San Diego and he's like, let's get after it, and then we're just hammering.
Yeah, it's like when you and me, JJ, when we first started Honu Sumo, it was just you and me, literally 2 hours of going hard, just smashing into each other. That's because I hated my performance on that first tournament. I went out and I was practicing sumo before COVID, and then, you know, time happens. I ended up having to get like a knee surgery and some other stuff, and I go out and I don't even know Minkin, but I think I lose. I'm 1-6. It's 1 and 3. It's 4. We had 4. It was a 5-man round robin. So
in my head.
I was 1 and 3 as well.
But it feels like
I was 1 and 3.
Well, it felt like I lost like 100 and kind of won.
Like, we went 1 and 3. You went 1 and 3. It's good. We were both the bottom.
Yeah, it was absolutely terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But I found out Minkin lived in San Diego, and I was like, hey, come on, dude, let's work. And Minkin's very awkward, especially like when you first meet him. He's extremely awkward. He's real warm right now, but usually he's like super awkward. But I get him and I'm like, hey, I have a gym, I do jiu-jitsu, judo, this and this. Let's just work. And we trained back to back, and you kept kicking me. You would rip off my wife's freaking sensor off of her arms. We were just literally beating the crap out of each other. And then there was a tournament that was happening in the United States. I was like, I gotta do this. I gotta see if I'm getting better or if I'm just beating up Minkin for no reason.
I mean, you got better because I did horrible that tournament, and you got second place. But
Yeah. Well, and then no, I'm not even talking about that tournament. I'm talking about the Ohio one. Ohio, the one that Cornelius and Darius ran with Jake Book. So I went out to that tournament, and it had a training camp before. It was a 2-day training camp leading into a tournament. So I had even more sumo under. I was feeling good. We stayed in like this miscellaneous place, and I just ate cheeseburgers, and it was real nice and easy for me to walk into lightweight too. So it was perfect. Walked in, Justin Kizzert was there, and I used to train with him back in LA. And I was like, oh man, so that made it real warm. But man, just like being in there with those hammers, right? Like some people don't know Dylan.
Oh yeah, Dylan Biggs is
that guy. Whoo, he hits hard. He hits hard. He might have the best tachi in lightweight.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love to watch him fight. Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, he's got that spirit. But like, I think that we can't source all the time within our own club. We have to kind of look around.
Yeah.
And then as we look around, we're looking for, those motherfuckers, right? we're like, let's get it.
Yeah. Well, that's why Texas is doing a good job, according to them with their Degeko, and Justin's always over with Caleb, but Caleb's over with those guys, and this new guy Jay is really a big hope, I think, for Sumo. He's going to be tough. Give him another year or two. Jay Shriven, he's just been in about a year or less. But those guys are traveling. I mean, and Corey, what's that?
JJ beat him once.
I beat him once.
I saw.
He's young. He's young though, or he's young in the game. But I got
it. Yeah.
Yeah, talking about that, I'm going to be back in San Diego for like a month in August. So I told JJ I decided I am going to pick every practice. I'm going to pick one young guy and tell them this is your day to get absolutely destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. You're not going to be able to stand up. Yeah. So we know who that's going to be. It's going to be Marshall. It's going to be Christian. It's going to be Peter. I'm going to make them bootscotty until they drop.
Yeah.
And get back up and then go again.
I think you guys have seen some of the pictures from the old Hawaii clubs and stuff. Sometimes we had 40 people under the age of 21 at practice. I mean, that's a lot of young people at practice. It's a ton of people. And some of them were all-state football linebackers and running backs and nose guards, 6'3", Samoan kid, 6'3", 380 pounds, just killer kid. And other kids were like 5'2" and 110 pounds. And this was all open weight. So we just said that you have to decide when you're ready to step in. So there were like different levels of practice. We just said, you really want to go hard nose, you step into this group. You're not so sure, go to the middle group. If you're really not ready, you don't want to go that group. But I never let anybody, once I understood the game a little bit, I never let anybody, adult or a linebacker or a pro football player, nobody was allowed to go live contact for 3 to 5 practice sessions. I wanted to understand where the hands were. You can't do this. You can't bend the fingers. We had guys getting hurt by people that just came in. Or that's why I kind of caution America, be a little bit careful. People love to invite the crowd to come in and have a match against you. Be careful. For them and for yourself, because somebody could just come around and throw a cold cock, and what? They got nothing to lose. They don't owe you anything. They're just out there. You say, go as hard as you can. Shit, dude. Okay, I'm gonna knock you out.
I've had a lot of like conversations with people, and they're like, "Oh, we should do this." It's like, I'm never going to do that. I absolutely hate it. Like, best case scenario, like that person will be like, "Oh, I love sumo, let me do it," right? But then what are you doing? You're giving them either like a fake match, which I don't really like that. I hate fake. Like, I don't want to watch professional wrestling because that's not my jam anymore, right? Or you're gonna go out there and you're gonna get that psycho, right? You're gonna get that psycho that's gonna throw an elbow at you, right? And then you're cut from doing a demonstration for free, right? It's a lose-lose. I don't like it.
So what we would tell people, I would get people into the ring, and they would do suriashi, and they would do some shiko, and they would do all the different things, and they'd do butsukkade. And I'd tell them, and they say, I want to fight you. And I said, no, dude. I said, not safe for me, not safe for you. No, no. I said, you come 3 practices, I'll let you fight. But we're not going to fight right now. No, you're going to get hurt, or I'm going to get hurt, and it ain't worth it. You know, it's not going to prove anything. I've been doing this for 10 years. You've been doing it for like 3 minutes. So I will kick your ass. They don't know about it. No, I can't. No. But come to practice. Practice. And then you can have anybody you want in our club. You go after them, but not till then. And the kids sometimes 5 practices before I let them. And with the little guys, like the elementary school kids, we started them with an outer grip and an inner grip. You know, just ready. And we just slap on
without a touch. Yeah.
So
Yamageko.
Little kids come across, they bang their head. Run! They don't ever want to come back and do it. And, you know, and then you got to deal with the parents like, my son, you said he was going to be all right, but he got a cut lip. Well, lady, it's all right. It's a freaking cut lip. You made it. So I just said, nah, it has to be, you know, you have to work your way in there. Yeah. And then junior high, we actually, if the kid's been up to 5 practices and they're junior high kid, and we also just go, if you got a kid that just doesn't have the physical tools or the psychological mental tools, I just don't put them with the dogs. I put them with one of our older guys that'll just be a little bit gentler with them, just let them learn the game. But there's some 9th, 8th grade kids in Hawaii, at least, especially. We got some kids in 8th grade that shave 3 times a week. You know, I mean, they're bad. They're bad.
Yeah, it's not. Kids are not the same anymore.
Yeah.
Kids are not the same. Like there's that kid that won middleweight worlds, junior. His name is PC Junior.
Yeah. PC Junior from Brazil. Yeah.
He's jacked. It's funny. What's interesting is he the Brazil nationals just finished, and he didn't place for Poland, or he got second, so he missed, which is funny because there's levels to this, but nonetheless, that dude's he's jacked.
Yeah. When I looked at his back, I went, oh my God, what is that? Terminator right there. I want no part of that kid when he's 25.
Middleweight too. Middleweight.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
All right.
Let's see.
Megan, do you have anything else, my dude?
Let's see. Oh, just I think one more before we end this. What are some of the famous rikishi you have befriended?
Befriended.
Yes. Or even kind of acquaintance, you know.
Right. Well, of course, you know, the top 4 Hawaii guys are all real close to the amateurs in Hawaii. Hawaii's a small place, so it's just like we're all from San Diego. So if you got 4 guys in Ozumo from San Diego, when they come home, they know there's a San Diego Sumo Club, JJ and Menken, they're going to come hang out with you a little bit. So Akebono, Konishiki, Musashi Maro, Takamiyama, tight. And then there was a lot of guys that made up to Makusta, and a couple made it into Juryo. They didn't really hit the big time. One guy, Yamato, he just passed away, 45 years old with diabetes kind of thing. That we actually trained and sent to Japan, and a lot of other guys that were pretty tough. But I mean, in Japan, the stable I was at Miyagi-no-Beya, there was a guy named Mutsurashi was his name, and he had just retired. He had been an Ozeki, and then he retired out of Sekiwaki position. He just said, I'm done. He got some kind of injury and he retired. And he had been retired about 3 months, still waiting for his Donpatsu to happen in the fall when I got there. So he would put on the mawashi every day, and he was mostly like a training coach and stuff with the guys. So he and I became good friends. He'd take me out, and we'd go, after I got to be the secretary, every afternoon, he and I would jump in a car and go meet sponsors and just hang out with a lot of crazy fun people. But I was real friends with Yoshi Bayama, the Oyakata from the Akinobe and the former Yokozuna. And the guy I trained with, when I was there in 76, he was 17 years old. And he's the guy that became the Oyakata of Miyagi-no-Beya and brought in Hakuho. I'm having mental block right now. Chico Bayama, what was his fight name? Chico Bayama. And he went on to become Miyagi no Oyakata. And he was probably, JJ, not much bigger than you. He was maybe 5'9", 5'8", maybe 210 or something, somewhere around there. And he ate me for lunch almost there. Every day we had to do like 5 or 10 matches with each other. And I think I beat him that whole summer. I beat him maybe 5 times. He just was so fast. As soon as my hands be near down, he'd be on my chest. And my chin just bled every day because he kicked so low. And his chin would come right through there, his forehead with his hair, with all that ridge in there. And just bled. My molasses, my belly was just constantly covered in blood just because of hitting me in there. And they kept saying, you got to charge. Every time I try to get low, he takikomi me, so I couldn't get low. I couldn't get him. But he became the Hoya captain, and I went back in the 90s, taking the U.S. national team, and we trained. I called him up and said, I'm bringing over the U.S. national team, and Mongolians asked, could they come with us? I said, any chance we could bring over like 8 amateurs to train, like Saturday and Sunday and Monday? He goes, bring them, John, bring them, in Japanese, but, no problem. And then he just put out the feedback for us. And he told me one time, he said, you really, he gave me his one of his green silk mawashis. He always wore an older silk mawashi. He said, one day he said, oh, here, John. He got the cardboard box. He threw me the cardboard box. It was sitting there eating chocolate. I go, what is this? He said, put it on. So I put it on. He goes, oh, it looks good. I go, oh, this is awesome. He goes, take him home. Oh, no. I'm not taking. Take him. He said, I got 5 or 10 more. I said, don't worry about it. And he said the reason he kind of befriended me was the coaches told him, you can't lose to the gaijin. If you do the gaijin, you're going to do 500 shiko after practice. Every time you do, you got 500 shiko. He said, I never fought harder than when I fought you. He said, I feel bad. Said, and I didn't want to charge at you in the days. I know your chin was all bleeding, your whole busted up, and just angry about you. Just get it. But he said, I had to. He said, otherwise, he said, that's my career. He said, for you, it was a hobby for the summer. He said, for me, that was my life. And he said, and my boss, who I have to live with for the next 10 years and fight under him, tell me, you lose the gaijin, you get your. And he said, they beat me up. He said, the few times you beat me, you didn't see that. He said, I had salt in my eyes, up my nose and my ears, bamboo whips on my back. He said, those cigarettes put out of me. He said, they don't like me losing to you. Because the boss saw that this guy had something, even though he was a small guy, like in Enho or something. They just saw amazing talent in this guy. Yeah. And it was. I mean, he was just so freaking skilled. He was crazy fast skilled. So he and I were buddies forever. Just so many. Asashio came to.
Oh, Asashio,
yeah. Every summer we got, for 25 years, we had the Japan National Collegiate Champions come in. So all the guys that placed in the top 16 would get a free trip to Hawaii in the summers, like a payback for qualifying. So they would come to Hawaii, and we would have 1 or 2 practice sessions, and they just beat the crap out of us. And then we'd have a day off, and we'd have a big party, and then we'd have the Hawaii versus Japan International Goodwill Sumo Tournament. And right before that, we'd have the Hawaii State Tournament. The first 2 years, we did the international first, and all of our Hawaii guys, after fighting with the Japan guy, we could already walk. And now we're going to a state tournament, and we trained all year for so we said, no, we're going to flip this. We're going to do Hawaii first, and then we're going to go to Japan. And we said Japan has to fight themselves, so they had to have tournaments too, because we'd get tired easily. So his name was Ogata. He was the college champion 2 years in a row, and he and I was the Hawaii captain and the Hawaii #1, like the champion, whatever, for about 6 years in a row. So I always had to fight their #1, their captain. There was always some guy that was going back and going into pro sumo. So Amanyama and Daiki and this guy and that guy and Asashio, I got my ass kicked by so many good guys. It was really fun. I mean, it's really interesting and fun to challenge those guys. But they were amateurs, and they were still amateurs, collegiate. But they were all like junior high champions and high school champions for 4 years, collegiate champions for 4 years, and I was in sumo for 3 weeks. So it's crap. But it was handy stuff.
John, I have one more question.
Yes,
and it's not that.
Give me a second. I need to.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite sitcom? Mine is Mad About You.
What is my favorite what?
Sitcom.
Oh, sitcom.
Yeah.
Sitcom. Well, this goes way back. I love Cheers back in the day.
Okay.
That was my absolute favorite, yeah. Norm!
Cheers is good. Cheers is a super solid one.
Because I was a
Super
bouncer and a
solid.
bartender and stuff. So, I lived the bar business for about 15 years as a teacher and as a college kid. Even I started bouncing and bartending. I learned it in college. And then every summer I'd be a lifeguard in the daytime. And at night I needed money. My family had no money to put me in college. So I put myself through. So I would lifeguard in the daytime. And then every night, 5, 6 o'clock, I'd show up at the bar and I'd work till 2 a.m, go home, sleep for 3 hours, get up and go lifeguarding. Every time
Was this in Rhode Island or was this in
Long Island, New York.
Oh, Long Island, not
New York,
Rhode Island.
yeah. About a 4-hour drive to Rhode Island. Or
Yes.
very in an hour. Yeah.
That East Coast is like you can skip around and be in 4 states and no
Oh
problem.
yeah. It's really fun. It's cool. Yeah. It's a great place to grow up. Great place to be from.
Right.
I don't want to live there, but it was a great place to be from. I learned a lot of good things in the East Coast.
Awesome. I think
what
that's
was your favorite?
my favorite. Mad About You
Okay.
with Helen Hunt,
Okay.
which I don't understand why that is. Like I was maybe 6 or 7 when that show came on, but I love all sitcoms. That's always been one of my things.
Yeah.
But that particular one really pulled me in. Still don't understand why.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome. I think this is a great spot to end. It's an honor, John.
Yeah, it was really awesome having you on.
No, but
Thank you for having us. Thank you for being on our show.
I think we needed another one at another time, episode 2, because there's so many stories we have to have from you, John.
yeah, well,
So many.
I'm happy to share because I'm 80 and I'm not in good health. So, I'm telling everybody, this is my final go around, baby. I'm on the 18th hole putting. So, I'm okay. I'm good with it. I had a crazy ass life and I wouldn't change anything except about 4 nights I would have turned left instead of right out the bar or something because I got in bad trouble a few times. But otherwise, life's been just a blast. I've had so much fun. Crewed sailboats from Panama or from Acapulco down to Panama. Lived a year in Mexico City before the Olympics, just surfing every day. It's a little town, San Blas. Just so crazy. Played rugby in New Zealand. Played rugby in Canada. Life's good. Life's been good.
Next time around, we're gonna dive deep into the rugby in New Zealand. We're gonna dive deep into that.
Okay.
I do like rugby, so I'm gonna listen. I want to know.
I have to.